It's his second time. He went to the general meetup last time, and this is your first time at the events, correct?
This is my third meeting. So.
Yes. All right. So well done.
My name is Bryce. Should I introduce myself?
Yeah, we just introduce yourself. Say what you're doing with WordPress, and
I'm converting a 39,000 line website to WordPress.
39,000 lines.
Great. Yeah, the existing website is 39,000 lines.
Wow. Right.
Lines or pages?
That's lines, not pages.
So, if you haven't figured already, we're a very loosey-goosey open group, so there's going to be lots of peanut gallery in the back here. Feel free to ask questions at any point, do anything. My name is Jeff. I work with my company with Brandon's Pixel Jar, and we're working with Crowd Favorite. So we do custom WordPress development most of the time. And I heard you called Brandon out, so we're going to go.
Hey, I'm Brandon. I work with this guy. We do plugin and custom development. And run WordCamp WordCamp.
That is also true. Yes, you do. So if you enjoy this, have you been to WordCamp yet?
No, I'm good.
It's a good time. So imagine this, but more intense all day in a t-shirt, lunch, more fun stuff. All right, we'll run down the line.
I'm Mari. I do lots of stuff. More development, WordPress development, all types of stuff.
First one, right?
So,
I'm Priscilla, and I do WordPress stuff.
thing number one.
I'm David, number one. I'm front-end, back-end, full stack. I do stuff with Apache and PHP and MySQL and CSS.
So there.
Clever dude. Mr. Churchill.
I'm Max Churchill. I do, as of recently, I'm now doing web business coaching and web development still, and helping other people with their businesses, and referring deals to fantastic web developers like Dave Jesh today. So
Good segue, Mr. Wizard.
I'm Dave. Jeff calls me the Wizard still. Not sure why.
You always have the answers, and it's magical when it happens. Like,
I'm a developer, full stack, backend, lots of heavy stuff. I like optimizing things. I like object-oriented programming. I'm a geek.
But a good one.
Yeah.
You have a good heart, which is important.
Developer. I don't know. I'm a developer, and
You work with Magento?
I work with an open source platform, and I do know some WordPress stuff.
You do Magento?
It's open source.
It is open source. No, we have a number of Magento projects. It's not, never been a fun experience for me, but that's because I want it to be WordPress and it's not, and that's not a fair assessment, so that's on me. It is, it absolutely is. But you just want to.
I'm sticking eyebrow.
Some people really like it though.
There's a reason for it, that's all that
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, it does have its fine purpose. Mr. Tucker.
Yeah, I'm Jason Tucker. I'm a WordPress developer at a nonprofit, and I also do WP Water Cooler on this.
Yes.
That's right, including today. How'd that go today?
It was good.
What do you do when your site gets a lot of traffic?
I have a clue. Yeah, no, wait.
just wait till it stops.
Turn your server off.
Yeah, today's topic was about what do you do if your WordPress site gets too much traffic, and how to go about that. So feel free to watch that stuff on the website.
You got me Googling as a result. I was watching.
Nice.
I haven't had a chance to watch it today. At meetings day. All right.
My name is Rusty. I'm a developer also. My latest project took on a Gravity Forms payment processing for a MailChimp integration. Cut it all together for a nonprofit called Off the Streets in Huntington Beach. homeless people places to live. So I do that for free.
That's very kind of you.
We've all done that, so.
That's good. Yeah. Nonprofits are often fun. It's gonna sound terrible by people watching, I apologize, but it's a good place to experiment. Because you are like, I'm doing this for free, but I'm gonna try this this technology I've never used, or this plugin I've never used. So there's that. It sounds like we're gonna get our other three in just a second here. Everyone's staring at me when they come in.
I want to know those cupcakes, those are, because I don't want
Oh, you can absolutely.
That's way back there. Is that a lady? It hopefully there's
One more
I've
time.
been waiting for you.
for you.
Thank you.
No, actually, we're just doing introductions, but we haven't finished yet, so you guys are right on
All
time.
right.
You want a cupcake?
Are you being fine?
Dave Prime, he's the penultimate of Dave's. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. There's some awesome Daves.
Dave,
There are weirdly only 2 Daves tonight, which is a low number of Daves. We usually average 3 or 4.
Is he gonna winter or this time?
Yeah. Oh, they're coming still?
No, not tonight.
Neither of your other Daves.
No.
None of the Dave trio.
Sorry.
All right. I don't mean to call you guys out, but we're still doing introductions. So, Greg Franklin. Who's talking to other people not paying attention right now? Can you believe this?
Distracted by this.
That's okay. I know. I'm sorry, we're doing introductions, so you just can't.
I'm Greg, and I work with desktop server, or so to say, I work with WordPress that makes desktop server.
That's correct. Cupcake Man?
I'm Mike, and I love cupcakes. And I co-own a business called Neutrino. We make really fancy websites for luxury real estate companies, usually in WordPress.
Usually. Sometimes in Magenta.
Most of the time.
I don't know what else you use. Bathroom guy disappeared, and then this will be our final introduction. Yes, you, sir.
Hi, Greg Gordon, live in Kauai.
Mhm.
WordPress designer and build websites.
Very well. All right, so that's the group. Now you know us all. Oh, we're not doing any more introductions. We're done with introductions. I'm just kidding.
Lunch day.
It's a great name.
Yes, likewise. I'll take the fine black seat here.
You should. That's the most comfortable seat in the house. Okay, so welcome everyone to the developer meetup. Thanks first to Zeke, who let us host this here, and the designer meetup, and he also does the regular meetup. There's meetups all over the place. You guys are pretty much aware of them. We're not going to go over those tonight. So are you aware? I don't mean to keep talking to you, but you don't wasn't seen this yet. Are you aware of the Facebook group yet?
Yes, I saw it last week.
Okay, we covered that then too. Good. Okay, so tonight we're going to be, last time we met, Jacob wanted to see the customizer, the new stuff, the customizer 4.0. Jacob's not here tonight, but we're going to talk about it anyway. As in our classic way of someone suggesting something and then not showing up the next month. Par for course. And then when Brandon and I were at WordCamp Dallas Fort Worth, with these t-shirts, and Brandon was speaking, the speaker gift was a belt buckle, which is great. One of the best speaker gifts I've ever seen.
Yes, you are.
He is. Brandon, I didn't speak, so I didn't get one. Yeah, Gary Dillis and some others put on it. It was good, great with their good WordCamp. But one of the things they did at the very end, Aaron Campbell gave a talk on ways to get back to WordPress. So one thing we always say is get back to WordPress. And a lot of people think that's just contribute to core. And it's not. There's a million other things to do no matter what your skill set is. We thought that was very neat. And then we had a contributor day following Sunday. So again, we thought that was a cool idea. So we're going to try and bring that into our meetups now and again. And Brandon's just going to go over it a little bit. We're not going to do much tonight unless he's found something. But our idea is that not every time we meet, but maybe every third time or so, we'll have a contributor day. We'll like pick a topic. Like we're gonna fix this piece of WordPress. We're going to document this function that needs some documentation or something. So our group will be back a little bit on occasion. It's an idea. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. This guy's pumped up, so I'm excited about that. Okay, so as far as the customer, are there any questions before we begin? Excellent. Because we wouldn't have answered them anyway. So if you want to see all the, because I'm going to show a bunch of code, I made a gist, or a gist, I think I need to pronounce it, which is a JavaScript file and a PHP file, which you can find if you go to the meetup page. I'll put a link for it here. I also link to the Make article that talks about all the new features of 4.0. And if you haven't subscribed to the Make, well, if you're interested in it, the Make .WordPress core, I'll go to it. Let's take a look. Oh, big time boot, isn't it? Just 2 slashes. Okay, that one works. Good to know. It's, tonight we're going to learn how to edit a meetup description. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Let's see. Yes. So the Make WordPress core blog is a good one to subscribe to. You kind of get it gets updated all the time, but you kind of get a sneak peek of what's coming up. And when they do release new versions, there's usually a couple good articles on here's the new stuff we released, here's the new functions that go along with it, here's some examples. So if you want to stay on trend, this is a fine blog. The make.wordpress.org site is just chock full of all kinds of crazy stuff. If you haven't been there yet, I recommend you do so, and you'll find something you like, I'm sure. Okay, I'm sorry, I was editing the link. Hopefully it works now. And then I also link to, it says example in use. So the big thing, many little things that are cool about the new features and customizing, but the biggest thing is they now have panels. So Theme Foundry's Make theme is a great theme, first of all. But it was highly customizable. So the image on your right is the old customizer. And it was just a bunch of sections, just like we're used to seeing in the customizer. You would click, that window would drop down, you make your edits to whatever kind of content they're asking for. But you can see in their example, they had so much configurable data that this list was getting out of control. So one of the things that we have now in WordPress 4.0 is panels. So now we can, essentially it's like subcategories is what we're doing. So we can group, so they made a group called typography. So you click into that and it's going to be 3 or 4 sections about typography. And you can slide in and out. So it's just a way of organizing things a little bit better. So if you've made a customizer bit of code before, it's not a big step. So the way you would have made a section, now you make a panel and make a section go to a panel. I'll show you an example of that, but it really is just that simple. There's a couple other cool little things that we're going to go over to though. Also, if you never have done customizer work before, there's some other things we can look at. Okay, so here I am in my theme. First thing to notice is now we call it customize. It used to be called theme customizer, I think, or just theme customize. But we're customizing a lot more than just the themes now, so they just cut off the theme part. Now we just call it customize. So if you want it to be cool, just call it customize. Don't say theme, because then you sound like you don't know what you're talking about anymore. That was still 3.9. We don't do that anymore. Okay, so you'll see in my little customizer panel here, there's one panel. You can still do sections if you want, but when you hit a panel, it rolls in. You can roll back, you can roll in, you can open up, and you can put as many sections in these panels as you want. Pretty cool. So let's see, how do we do that? Has anyone made their own customizer yet? That guy knows what I'm talking about, right there. Late to the party. I'm calling you out. He's a fine gentleman over here. I'm sorry, I didn't even see, I asked a question and didn't even wait for a raise of hands. Customizers, yes, we played with them? Okay, good. Let's start from scratch then. Okay, so Typically when I do it, I'll put this all in a class. It's not necessary, but probably a better way to do it, just to kind of keep it all confined. And what you'll need to do, let me make your register function, but to add a section, we have this WP customize, which is kind of your general, this is our class function. Our method is, we call that method, is that right, Marcelo? Am I using the right term? Call me out if I don't.
Yeah. WP customizes the instance.
Right.
Add
And
sections to that.
Thank you. I'm still new to classes, I'm working on this one. You'll see. I have no idea what's going on here. Add section is adding, so we're creating a new section, which is one of these drop downs. When we do so, we give it an ID, and this is the ID that we'll tie all the customizations to. You give a title, like this one I called social, which you'll see here. You give it a priority, so again, you can order your customizations. Quick tip, I know that one says 45, but typically I find it a good idea when you do your priorities to do them in 10s, so you do 10, 20, 30, 40. So if you have to add a new customization and say you need to drop it in the middle. If you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you got to go find 3, 4, and 5, reorder those ones. But because you did it in 10s, you can say, oh, I'll make this one 25, drops in between 20 and 30. Easy, lazy, that's the way to go. We have capability, which is tied to the user capability. So what level of capability you have to be able to have to make this particular edit. Typically, the default is edit theme options, because again, we're usually editing theme options, so it's a very good capability to use, but you can use anything. There's no rule for that. And then if you want to add a description, which you don't have to, you can do so with description. And then again, that adds our section here. So we say social. You can see here's the description I added, social networking links, which I'm sure was by the title you already got that, but I put a description anyway because I'm a handy guy. And I don't want you to be lost when you're in my customizer. Okay, so how do we add a little bit to that section? We add a setting. Oh, this one's not even in the social thing, so I apologize. But that's okay. That's not a good example though. And I have this one for each loop, so that's not a good example. I apologize. So the same way that we made sections, we make panels, except instead of add section, we have add panel. So we can see here. So we have add panel, we give it an ID, and then you give it an array of variables. You give it a priority, notice I used 10. You give it a capability, again, I used edit theme options quite cleverly. Theme supports is something you can say, so if it's any of the default WordPress supports, you can add them in here. So that's your background image, header image. You have a question?
I do have a question.
Certainly.
So the theme on the capabilities, if the capabilities was lower than the person who's logged in, would this panel even show?
If you're, what do you mean by lower? Like if you're
below edit theme options capability. So I'm a subscriber, does the panel show?
No, you're not going to see that. If you have subscriber level options in the customizer, those ones will show up in the customizer. But otherwise, it's just going to be profile customizer with your 2 edit points, and then none of these big ones. Like you can't change the template style and the background color and stuff like that. And then all of your theme options don't have to have the same capability either. They can all have very different ones. So again, depending on who you are, you might see 10 options, you might see 5 options, you might see 4 options. I don't know. You can get wild. Typically, though, it's probably going to be one kind of person can do most all of this. Title, no surprise. This is the title of the panel. Description, same thing. And then finally, we give the panel. Oh shoot, I was in the section. Title and description are the same though. So this panel I called sample panel and priority 10, which we'll see right now. And if we go in there, we'll see that we are customizing that section. And then I made a sample section within it, which is what I'm looking at here. I don't know if that highlights a good color for you or not. Don't mix up your priorities. Be very careful when you're talking about panel priorities, section priorities, and what's the other one? Control priorities. So we kind of have 3 levels of things going on here. We have our capabilities, theme supports again. Again, we're just making a section like we did before. This section I called sample section, which we'll see here, which we can look at. And we have title and description, which not exciting at all because it's exactly what you expect it to be, title, description. One thing that is new to Customizer in 4.0 is we do now have text areas, which you can see here, which I called text area with description. New to the Customizer is text areas, and then we have a text area there. You can use HTML5 form elements if the browser supports it, so those can be fun. One thing that actually is kind of cool is, so you'll notice this one down here, my standard input has a kind of an aqua background color. If we type in here, and notice I made this very small text. Not test. So another thing they've added in when you're doing the controls is they have this input attributes. So this one is in relation to the range. So that's the, sorry, let me go through this properly. So when we make a new setting, first we say add setting. What is it called? We call this one custom range. Then we make a control for it. So this one's same name, custom range. What type of field is it? This one happens to be a range. Give it a priority, give it what section does it belong to. Again, section, not panel. Be very careful. What do we label it? What do we describe it as? And then we can do this input attribute. So I'm going to give it a min, a max. What does it step at for the range? We can add classes to that element. So if our admin CSS, we want to make it look funny, we can totally do that. Or make it look awesome. That's also an option. If we go down to, so notice on, so this one's the text field, which we call standard input, but notice that I added classes to it, but I also added styles to it. So I said, color of the text is a dark gray, make the font size 10, extra small, which is a terrible idea because people need to see it, and then the background color is aqua. And you should probably put a semicolon at the end of that, just for semantics. So you can style these to be a little more colorful than just your standard white and gray situation. So that's fun and new. We also have, this is terribly exciting. So we also have, there's a phrase for this, forgive me, I can't think of it right now, but you can make the, not only can you do capabilities, you can make the fields and the controls conditional. So you can say, if they're looking at the front page, they can edit these 3 colors because they apply to the front page, but they don't apply to anywhere else, so don't show it to them. Maybe on the about page or on a blog page. So you, so you see right here we have this thing called active callback. And you can drop any of the WordPress conditionals in there. I did is front page for this one. So we notice this one is custom color. I think I did, we'll play with this in a second. So when we're looking at the customizer, so right now I'm on the home page. And notice we see this header background color. So we can change the header background color to something very sweet. Good stuff. Yeah, that's good. Let's definitely publish that. I've never been a designer. I've never been a designer. Always been a programmer. But notice it. So if we navigate, so if we go to the links page, watch header background on one page. See that? Did you see it? If I go back to the home page, bam, there. Kabam, gone. Like I said, the whole thing went on the front page. So that actually I thought was really cool. I was very excited when I saw that. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, other than this morning when I was fiddling around with it. But that's a thing. I apologize. I know I'm just kind of rolling through this very quickly. Let's go back up. This is not 4.0 stuff, but this is stuff that people who have not seen Customizer yet can be fun. So let's go back to our main page. So typically, most themes are always going to have site title and tagline, navigation widgets, and static front page are pretty standard stuff. But let's say, for whatever reason, you're editing this for a client and those defaults don't work for you. You can totally customize it like you can everything in WordPress. So let's say I wanted to get rid of, let's see, I can get rid of a panel. So the widgets panel here, which lets me go in and edit my default widgets if I wanted to. But let's say I don't want the client doing that. I can totally just unwind that panel. There's a function called remove panel. You just put in what name of the panel you don't want in there anymore. And when we refresh, widgets panel, gone. That's a cool thing you can do. You can get rid of particular sections. What's that? Oh, I know, this is riveting. Hold on to your hats here. So let's say I didn't want the static front page section, and apparently I didn't want the background image section. I don't think I was even in this one.
What are you doing in WordPress?
Oh, I'm ripping it apart. So static front page, oh, that's not even WordPress, is it? Static front page, which is the bottom section, should go away now, if all goes well. So you are not beholden to all these default things. You can remove particular controls. So if we go into site title and tagline, maybe I don't want to use tagline because that's just not in the theme for any reason. So no reason to bother the client with that. We can get rid of tagline. We have remove control. Give it its name. Gone. Oh, not gone. Embarrassing. Should have worked. At one time it worked. I did not test that today. Pretend that totally worked. You can also add things into sections that already exist. So again, in the site title and tagline, I added in the company thing because that's a common thing to go with the title maybe. So again, whatever the default one's in there, if you want to add to them, you can absolutely do that. Let's see, how did I do that? I created a new setting, I called it company. And in the section, I said put that in the title and tagline section and added it in. You can also, maybe you like the section, but you don't like the title. You can change just the title. You have to get rid of it and make a whole new one. That would be ridiculous. So we have, this one's a little wackier. You say WP Customize, get section. Which section? Title and tagline, please. And the title changed to site info instead of whatever we had before. We had site, title, and tagline. I got rid of tagline because apparently I tried to take the tagline out.
Tagline is blog description.
Did they change it?
Yeah,
okay. So now it's called site info. Okay, I'm sorry, you said it's called?
Blog description.
When did that happen? Oh, you're right, that was for underscores, not. This is a different thing. Is that one right? Yeah. I am redeemed. I keep talking to the web audience who's not watching. We changed the title. That was a good one. That's terribly exciting. The other thing, so there's two other.
Sorry, that section where you just changed the title.
Mm-hmm.
Does it also have a method for get panel and other things? So you drill down into actually the control that you want to change?
I believe so. I did not play with that, but I'm fairly confident based on these functions that I just started guessing that was right. Like it's all the section functions. Just change section to panel, and almost everything works so far. So don't hold me to that, but it's a good starting point. There's two other bits that are kind of important when you are doing the customizers. So again, one of the things we did was, oh, but it didn't stick, was because I got rid of it. Oh no, I didn't. It's here. So notice, because this is broken right now, I'll fix it right now. So when we're changing the header color, I'll go for a nice bright green. Yeah, this is like circa 1992 website. We might put one GIF on there that'll take forever to load, line by line.
Under construction.
Yeah, with the guy digging it.
Go marquee.
For 4 years, that's on there. So when we click, oh, we already saved it, save and publish, WordPress takes that that value and says, okay, I have this value attached to this variable that you set up here. And even though, there's two parts to this. So one, we need to output that bit of data so that this header color actually changes on the real side. Because remember, we're just previewing it right now. But we even have to set up the preview part as well. So two things need to happen. We need to make it happen in real time, and we need to make it happen in preview. Again, I apologize. This is not just 4.0 stuff. This is what the customizer is all about. So one thing I did in my class is I made a header output function. And this is very simple, but what it does is it grabs, it says get theme mod color primary, which is the name of that color that we were fiddling with. And then start exporting out some CSS to plug into the header or plug into the head of the thing. So we changed the background color. The problem is this doesn't actually apply to what I was fiddling with. So there's the problem. Let's look at here. This is, don't look, this doesn't count yet. So I think if we do it's a bit much simpler. So if we say
You could close the style tag.
to close the style tag right here.
Line 199.
Oh, probably. That's probably a great idea. I erased a bunch of stuff today. So. Yes, Brandon's pointing out that I didn't close the style tag, and he's 100% right.
We have the apostrophe on 197. So it's supposed to be there.
Yeah, because we're echoing out a string.
Okay.
Damn, you have no idea what you're talking about.
No.
Tawny. Okay, so now theoretically, we save that, and hang on, we're gonna have to do this again. All right, now if we go and look at the site for realsies, let's see if that's there. Nope. All right, I'm not going to edit that for you. I apologize. That's just me OCD. The point being, grab those values that you're putting in the system and do something with them. But this is how you grab the value. This is the important part, is the get theme mod. That's how you get those values. You can also save them as options. And there's a reason for that. That's not coming to me right now. I apologize.
The theme mod works out of the box. You don't have to actually save anything. If you get off, and you have to actually save it.
That's what it is. This was very common because originally the whole point of the customizer was just to customize the theme, which again was a lot of changing font sizes, changing colors, and maybe adding a few things in text-wise. But the customizer, if you play with any of the modern themes, has become much crazier. We're talking about like, this is my layout, this is where I want the widgets to appear, and you're doing a lot more stuff, so it's not just style output. But if you are curious on how to make these, where was I? How you make these real-time things happen, these all happen with JavaScript. So when we're having this thing, doing the disco show up here, what we're doing is let's see now first. So we made a JavaScript file and we on-queued it on-queued? One of those. Bring the JavaScript file in.
French or English?
That's right. And remember, you're bringing this in on the admin side, not on the front side. So there's a reason I mentioned that. I can't think of it right now. Anyway, make sure you enqueue it for the admin side, not the user side. And then in the JavaScript, WordPress will do a lot of this for you. Essentially, you take that value and say, if what they send you is blank, put in some sort of default value. But if they send you something, essentially we're saying change, in real time, change the masthead, background color CSS to, again, whatever value we're sending, which, again, when we're doing this, we're sending 1 million values over. But feel free to fiddle with that. And again, this file's up on that gist that I posted as well. But you can do the same kind of thing with text values. So the field that I have for company, I'm very confident this one's gonna work. This will be so embarrassing if it doesn't. So when I type in here, it theoretically will start putting the company name right next to the title, not in a link though. I don't know why that's important, but I want you to know that. Totally worked. There was a moment where I panicked. It didn't work right away. I wanted it to work faster than that. So every time you type something, just again, in real time, it just keeps dropping it in there.
What event is that looking for?
I'm sorry?
What event, what JavaScript event is that looking for?
Probably just keystroke. You know, I honestly don't know because it's a lot of this is pre-set up for you.
Okay.
And you just
That's doing
finding
something
it.
backbone.
It is. It's very backbony, which again, not my thing yet. I hope to learn it.
So if you have like a lot of these in the customizer, how does it affect your performance? Is it a huge drain or is it just?
No, because it's all on the admin side, so it's not like there's a lot of traffic coming to the
That makes
backend.
sense, yeah.
But yeah, it can get crazy too. There's a site we work on that had, had like a dozen images. You're changing the background image, the header background image, the logo, footer logo, all those things. So we had like 30 different colors because they're choosing menu hover, footer menu hover, links. They can choose everything. They can put in, again, social links in the footer, which again, this isn't going to work in real time, but they can put in all their links, and if they did so, like in the footer, it would just like put the icons in for them. If you had entered whatever your Facebook link was. So like, you can get crazy with this. And again, if you look at any of the make is a good thing to look at, which I don't. Do I have it? I might have it.
That jQuery, was that, was it a starter that was available to kind of help you with that, or did you write that yourself?
I'd like to say that I wrote that myself. The truth is, no, I found this auto-posted, like a starter for the customizer. This is back like 3.4, I think. Let's see, auto customizer starter. Second one. Second one's always the best one. Yeah. So this is where I first learned how to use the customizer. It was from Auto. It's very nice of them to post this. I can put that link on somewhere if anybody wants it. Might be handy.
I think all of this admin stuff is set up using backbone. So that's a library, kind of a JavaScript library framework for building applications. So you can look up that as well for reference.
You don't. There's two ways to have the page refresh. One is like with an iframe. That's the default. So if you change things, the reason they offer this other method is because it's much faster to refresh for the client. But the other default option is just using an iframe refresh. So basically, iframes are cited on the right-hand side, and then when you're done kind of typing after an interval, it will refresh the iframe. And it will apply all those values the same way, but it happens, basically a refresh rather than instant.
So this is a little slower.
Yeah. And the other thing too about that is that like the JavaScript that you're enqueuing only gets enqueued when you're in customized mode. It doesn't get applied like when people are visiting your site.
Right. So it really is just like an admin function that's going on. It's not going to slow down the site. What will slow down the site is if you are making a lot of local style customization. So if you in your head you have like 90,000 styles in there, them being in the head, it means it has to process them like as it's going rather than coming from a CSS file and then processing through that way. Plus you probably also have a CSS file, so you have to move two places. That can slow it down. I will also recommend that if you do have a lot of theme, what's that?
CSS is rather cheap to process. It's not
It's
like
cheap, but it counts. The thing that's going to get you is making all those database calls for the theme mods. So again, if you're doing those in real time as pages are loading, so again, I'm grabbing 5 images, I'm grabbing all these, if I'm making like 30, 40 calls every page, that'd be crazy because you put them all in transient and you just have to break the transient only if someone changes something in the customizer. Otherwise, it just hangs on to the data and it doesn't have to keep going to the database other than just to get the one transient.
The CSS is cheap, but constructing that CSS data with 300.
Yeah, there's a big PHP process in there.
300 different values that you're injecting into the
Right, and you're going to the database to grab every one of those mods.
So
Again,
it's already doing that.
trainings are a great way to do that. But only because you said so. Otherwise, I wouldn't trust myself. The wizard approves, which is important. So, but yes, it's the same things you would do to maximize speed on the site anyway. Just apply it to these things as well. Let's see, were there any other cool things? Are there any questions at this point? I know I've kind of gone through this a little bit fast, but again, what applied to sections fully applies to panels. That's the crux of it. And again, the other thing I thought was really cool I want to reiterate is the conditionals, which was somewhere there, active callback. So again, don't bog your users down with stuff they don't need to see or do, especially if it's overwhelming stuff. Again, if there's like 80 things to customize, but half of them don't even apply to the homepage, only have the homepage once on the homepage thing, and then. But be very careful to let them know that there are other things to customize. So if they just come to the homepage and don't realize they can go to other pages in the customizer, that's a fault on us for not educating our clients and users ahead of time. So.
Page specific, have a section say page specific and gray out the areas.
I like that idea a lot.
Are you showing, there's new controls in the 4.0 one, right? Are you showing all of them or are there other ones?
No, the controls are.
There's a list of controls.
I thought the older controls were still from the same ones from 3.4. They just never documented it before. Let's look at the page. Let's look at the page. It'll be there.
Like a tiny MCU window.
I don't know if they have a WYSIWYG yet. Contextual changes to actions. Customize the meta capability, customizer. Not that I know of. So what Brandon's talking about is, so right here you can see on this control, this is where I get the color control from. Like I don't have to go get the color picker or anything. There's one for that. There's one for images. There's one for, anybody can help me out because I'm gonna, just colors and images. That's all there is. There's other things I can't think of.
But I know you can build your own too.
You can. Oh, that's a good point. The active callback doesn't have to just be the WordPress conditionals. You can actually write your own functions there as well. So if you want to be page specific, so on page ID equals this, show this function, or whatever set of conditions you want. But you can do your own functions as well, which again, totally cool, I think. Okay. Any more questions now? We're all customizing masters, and we're all going to add it to everything we do now. Fantastic. Okay.
What was the location of your JS file defined? Was it the customizer PHP?
Oh, where did I?
Anywhere.
My function? I called it in?
Yes.
This would be something like in your functions.
Where'd you put in a live preview?
Let's find out.
Separate, but it's still same idea as how.
I did in customize preview init, which actually pulls that JavaScript file in just on the preview page, not on all the other pages. Again, I probably learned that from the auto page as well, actually. The WP head is when I'm doing all the output, so it goes into the head tag. And then the register is just initializing the class that does everything. Yeah, so it does register, which is the very first function up here, and then register calls all the other functions in. I'm sorry the screen's not long, so we can actually see like all the bits coming together.
So the part that you were saying, it isn't working on the refresh or whatever, that's because you have to write the bit of CSS in that like header file or something? So,
in my header output, which is right here, I've done something wrong with that. I don't know. Oh, you know what? Maybe. Hang on. I apologize. I am going to try and fix this right now. Is it this one? Custom colors?
It's like it.
Not color primary?
Definitely not that.
Oh, it's going to happen now.
Ka-ching!
Everything works now.
That's how you finish your demo.
That was easy.
I thought it was on key down, on key press, not on key up. This thing, honestly, who programmed it? Okay. Again, all the links are on, did I save that page? So now they're all on the meetup page. So my gist of all the code, the make article, I know these sound like the same thing, the make article on all those new things. The example of the make theme, which is not the make article, two different things, and then autos customizer starter, which is like it's like 2 years old, this article, but it's still very useful information if you're just starting with customizer. All right, I think that's it. I think we're all good. Okay, I'm gonna hand it over to Brandon, who's now gonna make us contribute.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. All right. I have a Texas joke for you guys in the meantime, while Brandon's setting up. I have it right there. It's, why did the cowboy buy a wiener dog?
Why is that?
Because he wanted to get along with the doggy.
Well played.
Thank you. These are the things you do when you're in your house eating prison. Texas jokes. Google, Siri, Texas joke, please. I have one from a fourth grader. Thank you, Siri. Oh, that's your thing.
Okay, my belt buckle ready?
Yeah.
This is weird now.
It's beautiful.
It's pretty rad, right? It says WordCamp DFW, and then it says 2014 in the star. Just like tuck my shirt in all. What's up, Dallas? It's getting weird. Okay, so what I want to talk about, because I haven't been to a contributor day necessarily like this for a while, and the one that was in Dallas was hosted by Scott Kingsley Clark, who wrote the Pods plugin, and also contributes core here and there. So it was kind of cool, and I thought I'd just kind of touch on some of his points that he made and kind of walk through some things, because as Jeff said earlier, anybody can contribute to core. It's really important for the sustainability of the platform to to get new contributors over time, right? And so I wanted to walk through some very basic things about how to contribute to core, and then actually I found a thing that we can actually patch. I've already created the patch. It's like a turkey in the oven thing. But I thought it would be cool for anyone you guys who have contributed to core before to kind of take that to the finish line. So a couple of things. So who has contributed anything to core, like patch-wise? Yes, good. Was it like weird the first time? Were you like freaking out or anything? No, you guys are pros, Daves. You guys are Daves. Has anybody like wanted to contribute to core but didn't know where to look, where to start, how to do anything? Good, okay. So it turns out there's totally a website for that. As Jeff was showing earlier, make.wordpress.org is a really great site for getting to know not only just about WordPress, but about contributing back to it. And as I said, there's many ways to contribute to core, or contribute to WordPress in general. One of the ways is coming to the meetups, hosting meetups, putting on a WordCamp, just spreading the WordPress gospel, all that kind of stuff is great community building. It's going to continue to make the platform as popular as it is. So those are great ways to do it. You can also get involved with the support team. A lot of people go, well, I don't know too much about WordPress, but I guarantee you know something more than somebody else. There's a lot of people every single day coming to WordPress, and they don't understand how to set it up, or they don't know how to do, multi-site or whatever, which you may have experienced in your service business or just fiddling around. So I highly encourage you. I have been to contributor days where I've sat in support forums and answered support tickets, things like that. It's a good way to quickly give back and get people excited about the platform. So what I want to talk about today was actually doing some core contribution. So there's this, basically if you go to make.wordpress.core make.wordpress.org/core, you'll get to basically where everything is sort of happening. This is sort of the landing page of what's going on in WordPress right now. Daily or weekly, you'll see posts from dev chats. You'll see core plugin teams posting on what's new, what they're working on, things that are coming to WordPress in the next version or the next 2 versions, or things that people are working on with WordPress. So it's a great way to get involved. One of the great things that I found out when I was in Dallas is Scott Kingsley Clark has been tracking all of the plugins that relate to Meta, right? So anything like advanced custom fields or pods is another one. Like there's just, I think he said there was like 100 and something plugins that just do meta fields. And that's not even all of them, that's just popular ones. So there's a whole team right now devoted to making a meta API for WordPress. It's a standard one that's built into core. But that's awesome. Like who doesn't use meta information in custom post type? Like everybody, right? So like things like that are great things to get involved in. Just from at least a visibility perspective, like follow along with those mini projects, and you'll start to get ahead of the curve, and you'll start to see what's coming to WordPress in the next things. So again, just following this this blog feed is a great way to kind of be involved in what's going on and find something that you're interested in contributing to. In addition to that, there's this core contributor handbook. If you've never contributed again to core code, this is a work in progress. All these handbooks are a work in progress. There's one for themes, there's one for plugins, there's one for all sorts of things. But this one is related to core. And it talks about some of the mantras of core, some of the ways to actually do patching and finding bugs and things like that. So there's, this is a great place to go to actually, sort of read up on how you develop in core. And then once you're sort of moderately versed in kind of what's going on, there's another tab here called tickets. And this is so much better than what the entrance to Track used to be. Track used to be something that was completely separate, right? It looked different, it functioned different, it still exists and is very different. But this page right here, this is like, if you're just getting started, this is where you want to be. So they break up things that happen here based on, so if you're logged in to WordPress.org, you'll see a My section, so you'll see tickets that you've contributed to or whatever. So you'll see those. You'll see patches you've put in, things that you're following. You can create tickets here. So even if you're not comfortable writing code, but you found a bug in WordPress, you can contribute here by giving somebody else a job to do by creating a ticket. A good way to kind of follow what's going on is seeing what the latest ones are or what the most active ones are. Those will be the ones that you'll probably be hearing about on WP Tavern or wherever. So also good things to go there. They also break it out by release. So if you're looking for ones that are just coming to the next version, you can go to the 4.1 version, the next major release. The next minor release is tracking probably security things. So you can jump in there as well. And things that are slated for the future, but we don't know when they're going to get in. You can also do it by workflow. This is kind of cool because you can break it up by like media this is where it is, like, does it have a patch? Does it need feedback? Does it whatever? There's a way to track that. But this getting started section, this is where the money is right here. It basically will give you, okay, which tickets are in there that have patches that need testing. So you can just take a patch, apply it to your local WordPress install, and then go, yeah, it's working, no, it's still not working, whatever, provide feedback. That's a contribution back. You can still get credit for your name and helping out WordPress core by contributing back things like that, testing and feedback. So it's a great place to get started. If you know how to write unit tests, this is an area that is sorely lacking in WordPress. Everything that goes into WordPress now needs unit testing against it to make sure that we're not increasing the overhead of WordPress itself. And then this is another one, for me, this is really where I start off, is tickets without a patch. So things that have been submitted, but don't have any code contributed against them. But if you're just now starting, this last one is what you want. Good first bugs for new contributors. Okay, it doesn't mean it's like a missing comma or things like that. Sometimes they are text related, whatever related. But what this basically means is they're contained. A lot of WordPress code intermingles, so you can quickly find yourself going down rabbit holes. And these bugs have been sort of gardened to not be rabbit holes. So looking through here, it kind of tells you these are good ones for first contributors. If you already contributed, these are not things you should be looking at. These are meant to sort of give people a way in without being crazy, and it's generally frowned upon if you've already contributed core to look through these. So one of the things that I saw in here when I was kind of browsing earlier was the bug is network setup rules should have a line break at the end. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Looking at this a little further, there's some good detail onto what's going on. So they're saying that standard WordPress htaccess looks like this, which you've probably all seen. If you run a multi-site, you've probably seen this. It basically is the multi-site stuff. Same version, or same thing with the multi-site. But what this person is describing is that when you have an htaccess rule and say you're converting from a single site to a multi-site, one of the differences you may not notice is that in single site, it starts with begin WordPress and if module mod rewrite. And then it ends with if module. That code is nowhere in this multi-site setup. Okay, so what he's describing is usually he deletes that stuff and just pastes in the stuff that's given to you before. But if you leave it in, what happens is if you basically take this bit out and you paste it in between those things, there's no new line at the end, so the if module gets stacked up on the previous line. Right? It's not really necessarily super complex to do, if you know how to add a new line. And so basically it's throwing a 500 error for some hosts and things like that if module is on the same line as the last variable. So I was looking at this and just thought I'd kind of look into it a little bit to see what the possible cause. Anybody have an idea where you would start looking for this? I use Sublime. I just find all.
That's usually how I find
Yeah. So I took the last line here, right here, index.php space bracket L's, and I did a find, and I found two places. One, I have it in my htaccess. That wasn't there before. Oops. Okay, so now when I found it, I was like, hey, there's only one spot. How much more contained can this be, right? So I pulled that page up, which is in network.php, which makes sense because it's a multi-site thing. And you see this block of code. That block of code looks pretty similar to what was posted here, but instead of having actual stuff in there, there's definitely some variables and things like that. But for this thing to work, you don't actually have to know what those are for the intents purposes of this thing. You just have to know that the htaccess file is the variable that's going to be used to output this data. Are we with me so far? Okay. Who's already patching this? Anybody? No? Okay. So what you'll find if you look for that is that it's being used down here in a text area to set the number of rows to the number of lines in it plus 1, because you want to make sure it'll fit it. And then it's outputting that file being escaped properly, which is good. It's outputting that text to the text area. That's it. Any thoughts on how you could patch that? No. Okay, I'm going to tell you. So you could add here an end of line, a PHP end of line that works across platform. So you'll have a nice /n or /rn or / whatever you need it to be for that system. And that would add in a line. Before I do that, let's take a look at what this would look like in WordPress itself. So I have, does anybody not have like a development version of WordPress? Does anybody want to see how you set that up? No. Okay, good. I have a local version of WordPress running here.
It's all very small.
It's all what?
It's all very small.
Very small, yeah. So there's 2 places you can get it. I'm just going to talk with you about where you can get it. Ooh, look at that slow. So you can get the SVN version of WordPress at core.svn.wordpress.org. You can use SVN to check it out into a directory. It will check it out into like trunk, branches, tags. It takes a long time. So get some coffee or a beer or whatever you're gonna do and check it out. But you can do it that way, or my favorite way is the Git repo that WordPress has that's synced every like 15 or 10 or 15 minutes or something like that, 15 minutes. So this is up to date with what's on the subversion. So I prefer Git, so I use this. So I cloned that to a directory on my system. And this is that bit of code. So this is a really secure password.
Password?
No, better.
I use password.
Okay, so I'm just going through the install process to make sure it's working. Okay, good. I'm gonna log in. And I've got a basic WordPress install. So in order to get this functionality that this bug's talking about, you actually have to create a multi-site. So in order to do that, you set a config to wp allow multi-site in your wp config file. And what you'll see is inside this tools menu, there's just 3 options now. But when you go into it, after that's in there, you'll see this network setup function. I can't really see that, but. So if you click that, it says, okay, what do you want it to be? Subdomains or subdirectories? Say subdirectories, and click install. Okay, now this is the screen where that output's being created right here. So all this code, if you look at the end of this code, there's no new line at the end. It just ends right there. Okay, so in order to switch that, I'm going to go into that network file. I'm going to add an end of line and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to refresh this page, and I get an end of line, but it's not selecting for whatever reason. So what I did is I added another line here, and I refresh, and now it selects the full thing. So I've now got an extra line here at the end, which satisfies the requirement. And so I can go in and add that to my htaccess file. And paste that in, you'll see it has an extra set of lines. So that would solve the requirement for this bug. So I've got something in place that fixes it. So how do I then get that to the WordPress god so they can do something with it, right? So that's right. Check them out. So now, so now if I look at a status, you can't really see that, can you? Do you mind hitting the lights? Oh yeah, look at that, I can see. Okay, so now what you see, I just ran get status, and what you'll see is now I have this modified file, wp-admin/network.php. That's the file I just changed. So in Git, you can do a diff, and now what you'll see here is there's an addition of a blank line here, and an addition of PHP EOL here. EOL stands for end of line. So that's what I need to give back to WordPress, that set of data. But I'm using Git and stuff, they're using Subversion, so there's some, I can't just open a pull request to WordPress and go, here, this stuff. So what you have to do in this case is you have to output this to a .diff file. And all it is a text file with that chunk of code in it. And the Git diff is slightly different from an SVN GIF in that it adds like a and a B to the file that has changed, which I'll show you. So if I just do, let's see. So right here, I don't know if you can see it when I highlight it, but there's an A/ and a B/, and that's basically saying in the first version you had nothing, and then in the second version you had stuff. So what you can do in Git is you can run a Git diff with this no prefix flag. So if you run that, it's the same thing, but you'll see that here there's no more A and B. Right? So this is like more like the format that they want for Subversion. So to get that onto a file, I can output that. And the proper way to name these things is based on their ticket number. So you come back to the ticket, you find its ID, and then you go and you call it that number.diff. Okay, and so now when I'm in that directory, I now have 29945.diff. So this file I can now take and send straight to WordPress core through track. I can go into that track ticket and come down to the bottom and type in, hey, I totally fixed this because Brandon showed me how to do it. And then you add the attachments, wherever that is. Okay, so you attach the file right here, you attach that diff file, and then you submit it. That's it. That's all it takes. Super easy. Everybody with me? No one fell asleep when I turned the lights off? Okay, sure. So does that all make sense to everybody? Totally? You totally pick that up? I mean, that's a good example of a good first bug, but I mean, there's a whole list of these things. If you're interested in working on a ticket or just following along with a ticket that already has someone who's kind of working on but just needs somebody to like do the stuff they're saying, the second bit of the list is a good place. So you can kind of come in here and look to see, oh, this is what we need to do. You just need somebody to do it. They'll tell you exactly what to do and just put up a patch.
But I submitted 2 different tickets.
Sergey, oh, Sergey is super in there. Yeah, these ones are, like I said, they're really good for first-time committers. You can, once you go in here and you submit a patch, like, you know, if you're on the right track, they'll give you props on the WordPress core stuff. You'll get entered into the 4.1 release, awesome people, contributors, and be famous for like a day.
How many contributors are there?
A lot. Yeah, I think in the last release there was like something like 100 and change, and they range from one commit to, you know, nascent. It's a range.
You don't even have to make commits. My contribution was for loading up an Android emulator and testing the patch.
Yeah.
To say, oh, look.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like you don't have to, if you're not a developer necessarily, you don't want to get too entrenched in what Core's doing, but you want to just help out. submit a bug. That's a good way to get into you know, getting props and stuff. Submit test feedback, like, oh, this totally doesn't work for me, even though you tried to fix it, or whatever. I've got French version of WordPress, and it's a med. So yeah, there's tons of things you can do to get involved with core. I would love to see. I know, like we've gone. I feel like our arc is like super high, and I would love to see more of us contributing back to core, because I think our community is capable of it. But are there any questions on how to put a patch in or get back to core in any ways? No. You're all going to go home and do it right now, right? That's right. Siri, write patch. Yeah. Yeah, so I really encourage you guys to at least start following along with make.wordpress.org. It is a little high volume, but you're going to be having to deal with it sooner than later anyway, so you might as well be ahead of it. Just throw it in your feed and keep an eye on it, and you'll be good to go. Yeah. I don't know, any other announcements? Anybody like working on something they're stuck on?
With the contributing, I remember some of you talking about documentation, isn't that?
Yeah.
I mean, where is that in that area?
So if you go to, let's see what page I'm on. So when you go to make.wordpress.org, on here you can see these are basically the different groups, like the different big groups of WordPress, right? And documentation has its own group.
Translators, that's a big one.
Totally, polyglots is huge.
One thing they mentioned that WordPress is incredibly deficient on is accessibility.
Yeah.
So if you know anything about that, they're desperate for people to make keystrokes for everything and make it readable or accessible for everyone.
Right. So yeah, these are the different like kind of main teams. If you're just interested in like things around WordPress, like WordPress.org, WordCamp.org, like all those things, that's this meta group here. They are, I think, Jason, is video under training?
I think so.
Yeah. Or it might be community. Anyways, Jeff and I are kind of under the community wing most of the time. But training is a new one where they're actually creating like a website, like I think it's learn.wordpress.org is what it's going to be. But it'll have, all the same kinds of things that learn.wordpress.com has, but for .org, which would be great. But yeah, I mean, this whole make.wordpress.org website you could spend a ton of time working here. And as Matt said, 5%, that's all it takes in every company. So, yeah.
I have a question. The reason why I'm reading that is to learn about app pressing.
Okay.
Does anybody here have any experience or any familiarity with app pressing? I just want to build an app to go to the website, and I did go on the app presser, I did download the plugin, kind of check it out. And I'm not a developer myself, I'm very basic, basic WordPress skills. But yeah, if you can talk about app presser, anybody?
Does anybody have experience? Did you buy AppPresser?
Not yet. It's a plugin. So I downloaded the plugin, and then you buy the different plan that you want to buy.
Right.
Yeah, and so I'm right at that stage where I just want to kind of talk about it and get some support or somebody's familiar with it.
So yeah, I was going to say, Scott Bollinger, one of the creators of it, is actually one of the members of the group here. He's not here tonight, unfortunately, but I don't know if anybody else has AppPresser specific experience. But I've been fiddling around with PhoneGap a little bit. That's more on the app side of things. PhoneGap.
Is it also a plugin?
No, PhoneGap is a separate system that lets you create websites. Well, it creates apps that are HTML5 and such driven, which is what AppPresser sort of runs with.
And another thing is
where Kent Banks had, Scott did a spiel on mobile stuff, using mobile, maybe mobile application with WordPress. And if you go to wordpress.tv, you can probably find, it's about like an hour-long talk, and there's probably more than one.
WordPress.tv.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
And Scott Bollinger with 1 L.
Yeah. So this is the one everybody's talking about.
This is exactly what you meant, to find out some information about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an hour, and I thought it was really good.
Now, when you build an app through their product, is it like Apple friendly? Will they accept it?
It depends on your implementation. So Apple has, there's no guarantees that your website will be accepted by Apple if you use AppDresser.
So it's up to them.
No, well.
No, it's up to you.
Yeah, you have to create some, basically Apple's policies around that say, we don't just want you to have a website that's an app.
Gotcha.
They want to have more functionality or different functionality than you could just get from going to the website. So if your goal is to take your website, make an app out of it, and put it on the Apple App Store,
exactly,
probably not going to get accepted.
Really?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because it's not, because you can just go to a website to do that.
There's no value add.
Right. So if you're using things like AppDresser's camera functionality that's built into your website, and you're allowing user submissions or things like that, that's an added value.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I mean, you build functions into the app, yeah. But it would be based on the website.
Sure. Yeah. I think based on the website, you won't have as much of an issue. Again, I think what they don't want is just to have the App Store flooded with websites as apps. So just be aware of that.
It's not a link repository.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So again, I don't have specific. I mean, is there a specific question you're asking about?
No, I mean, I'm just curious in general curiosity, because I'm about to purchase a plan and build an app, and just want to see what's all involved and this and that.
Are you?
Yeah, I messed with it earlier today. I messed with some of the videos that they have, and it's a little above my skill level.
Mm-hmm.
That's why maybe I'll come here and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, so are you part of the Facebook group that we have for WordPress?
Yeah.
I would definitely put a question out there for Scott. Like I said, he's in there. He's a very active member of our group, and I'm sure he'll have some feedback for you.
Okay. Thank you.
You got it. What is it? What are you laughing at?
Dave just.
Yes.
One of the things we've been discussing on Facebook is reservation booking systems, and everybody talking about the WordPress plugins, what are stopping. We all wish there was a Gravity Forms add-on, and there still isn't one. And then WP, there is now a WP Commerce version, but there's still, maybe that isn't the ideal solution. And Chris Lemma has suggested also looking at SaaS solutions to adding reservation booking thing, and I've been looking at a couple. Bookio looks like it might not be horrible, and I just wonder if anybody here has found any is doing anything for reservation bookings that they're happy with.
Anybody?
What kind of reservation booking?
This is for a tour guide doing tours of New York City for half a day, and he wants to have a calendar appear and show that it's full or not full, and be able to reserve and pay. And then the rest of the website is WordPress, but I want to be able to insert the reservation system. And
I've heard some
I've
people some people talking about using WooCommerce.
I'm at WooCommerce.
Add-on called Bookings, and that will let you do just that. I don't know if you know.
The problem is I'm not a WooCommerce person, and I hear that is it worth the learning curve to master WooCommerce? I hear it adds a whole lot weight to your site and people aren't that crazy about it. Like if you already love WooCommerce, then that's a good way to go. But if, you know.
Somebody loves it. Nobody loves it. This is summary through it.
I'm sorry.
A solution is the only one that really comes to mind that I've heard other people talking about. But I've heard several conversations on this topic in the last months. Everybody says bookings, reservations, all that stuff that's available. None of it really solves the real problem. Yeah. So we want to experiment with it and see if it's going to have longevity, see if it actually has the functionality we need.
Yeah.
There was a post in the group just like last week.
Oh, yeah?
That exact thing. He was somebody that, he was a,
Arborist.
yeah, he's an arborist, that's right. And he was and he wanted to put, he basically wanted to people to see where he was, so, or to see if it's what his schedule was, and if it was full, so they could book accordingly.
I feel like you could almost integrate like the Google Calendar feature in there. Like
Somebody in our group is using Acuity, which is a SaaS solution, and just, you know, Bookio doesn't look horrible, but I mean, it's a real chicken shit way to go.
And how long is that gonna stick around too? That's the problem. You know, a plugin will stick around for as long as it works.
As long as it's installed.
But, you know, a SaaS solution, if they were to just like, you know, manage ship at some point, you're kind of stuck and I got to look all over. So it's like getting bad. It's like,
It's why people run the herd, I think, you know?
yeah.
That's my topic.
I just wish somebody would build something for Gravity Forms, because everybody keeps asking for that. And that's the perfect solution, because all of these things, one, you ask a bunch of questions in Gravity Forms.
Does Gravity Use have anything like that? I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a while.
I don't know.
Data storage for Gravity Forms would scale.
Yeah.
That's forward after a couple hundred comments. And thousands will get to it.
Oh, good, so you have the reason why nobody is ever going to do that.
Not a Gravity. Unless you start adding your own data sets for the Gravity installation.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the problem. The data model between deployments and scheduling is really tough. So doing it with a standard booking add-on for an e-commerce solution, it's not a really easy thing to do.
Yeah. It's graduate level computer science.
Wow.
Yeah, it is not
queuing problems. Yeah.
Dudes.
To study lines, like at the post office, it's about like advanced undergrad, introductory graduate school type of problems.
Yeah. Yeah, so sorry, no?
So your suggestion, the best thing to do is to
Build it, yep.
WooCommerce.
No, can you bring up WooCommerce?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there is a solution. You need to investigate and see if it's going to work.
Well, I've been, you know, so, but all of the WordPress, there was one WordPress plugin that looked like a possibility, but it only takes PayPal, and it doesn't want that.
Yeah.
And
Anything's possible, and time and money have no consequence.
I mean, I think if I do the SaaS and it dies, like Jason was saying, then I just get another.
Does Acuity or Bookio allow paying for that type
Yes.
of research? Okay.
Well, no, you actually are still adding a third party.
Okay.
They do the payment for you.
Yeah.
It's not cheap, is it? $249.
It's
$249
not
is
terrible
$449.
in terms of cost. The one that Chris Lemon liked was Book Fresh, which bought
People are wanting something like this for a long time.
Square.
Yeah.
Open table, or what was the other one? It was out. It's something.
My wife has, like, hair salons, been wanting something like this for years. Our girls are like hair salons.
There's one out, I'm trying to think of them. There's one.
Yeah.
They did not describe it correctly.
Have you looked at the point?
Yes, I mean, there's a couple
Some
of
other-
kind of sites out there. The Chris Lemons, which is the best, and then there's another one, WP. There's a couple that have done the comparisons.
YouTube will let you see the calendar and let people pick from that, and what, I just had to look at my chiropractors, well, my old chiropractor, he's in Georgia. But, I knew he had one that he was using that he liked, and the reason he liked it was that it could get him down to 5-10 minute bookings, because, most of these booking things are like an hour. Now, I don't know how much he's used it, but the plugin's there, I couldn't think of the name of that damn plugin.
The problem is the problem, when everything is tricky is when you have multiple places that the person can be tied into. So for instance, like a dog groomer, if they have like 20 kennels that are all sitting there, those people can be in waiting, and then they can have, actual groomers that maybe only have 3 chairs. Well, then you have those are the ones who are actually working it. And then you have to figure out the whole math equation of how long does it take for this thing to actually occur, and then figure out whether or not you can actually book those people. Because something can take all day, and you have one seat that's being used all day long. And then your crappy software that you have running is going to say, well, no, we good, so we're going to be done. It's like, no. And now you got those people that are going to be mad because, they're going to be overbooked.
But luckily, your situation's pretty.
He's very simple. He's one person. The two sites that are reviewed, WP Mayor has he did an analysis of a rating of a bunch of WP plugins. And I looked at that, and there's valuable stuff in the comments, and then also the one that Chris Lemon did. It's just everything that I looked at has something wrong with it. I looked at WordPress, which was the one that WP Mayor looked the best, and it's just kind of dorky looking when you look at,
Plus, reviews can only tell you so much. You almost have to like pick one and like it because they're only doing a drive-by. There's always going to be that one little thing that the guy said that's different than what the stupid plugin does. It's like, why don't you just have simple names?
I mean, really, for that person's stuff, you can have a Google Calendar that just says unbooked this day.
Yeah, just auto accept.
I had that for a while.
And you don't go to the meeting. Google does that natively. You can have a gravity form send an invitation to Google, and then if it's available, they'll book it, and then he just has to make sure he's been paid. And that's if he doesn't want to use PayPal, he's not happy with the solutions out there. And not willing to pay for a custom solution.
Well, I could put in Stripe, and then there's the solution.
Yeah, what we can do is we want.
Correct, so Stripe is a decent.
Just not PayPal.
He feels like, when you use PayPal, you look like a little.
Well, there's PayPal Pro that makes credit card just seamlessly.
Yeah, PayPal Pro.
People
How much pay money?
Well,
Then you gotta PayPal more money.
Yeah. They strike with
So I could use the one that they found was Canyon Booking System Pro. And that does have, that was when I was worried about PayPal only. But if I use PayPal Pro, it'll look like it takes credit cards.
Well, if the plugin works with PayPal Pro, then you can customize PayPal Pro to stay on your site, branded, and appear like the everlasting, and take your credit card and handle home devices.
Yeah, but most of the time when they say PayPal only, they're doing PayPal standard. Not PayPal.
So I have to check that out.
And it's not like just happy or something.
Yeah.
Really, not a quick question. I don't know if I should ask.
You should totally ask. Absolutely ask it.
How do I know when is a good time to start adding tables to WordPress default?
If you're running multi-site and you need these tables for every site, that's a bad idea.
Okay, I'm not running multi-site.
Okay. Typically, it depends on your traffic, I would say. It depends on your need. If it's something that is very complex data that needs to be accessed very quickly,
like scheduling information.
Like scheduling information. Then I would say go with the custom table. I think that if you're distributing anything to the public and you don't know what the end target's going to be, don't add tables. So if you're building a plugin that needs to store data in some way, work with the WordPress data architecture as much as you can. And if you're distributing it to other people, that's the nice way to play in the pool.
What kind of information do you want to store?
It's well, one of the things is users, and I know there's a user table in a minute, user table, but it doesn't have everything I need, so I'd probably add fields to that table.
You can add rows to the user meta instead of adding columns to the user table. That's a better approach.
Okay, yeah. That's good.
So pretty much every object in WordPress has a meta table. So you've got users and user meta, posts and post meta, and you have taxonomies, and you have taxonomy terms. There are ways to get meta associated with taxonomies, but it's not out of the box.
Yeah, personally, I use real estate sites, and instead of creating like real estate agents as like a totally different thing, we just write on top of the existing WordPress users. We make a different role for them using their own local functions. But you know, there's a lot of information that we need to store for these agents that WordPress doesn't offer by default. And so we use advanced custom fields, which is my VIP favorite plugin of the year every year. And you can use that to actually add fields into the user table as well. It's some tricky stuff, but it's all documented and on their website to store.
It's kind of great documentation.
Yeah, and that's great. So you know, we store without using any other plugins, just this one plugin. We're doing like image uploads. We're doing all sorts of crazy things. Tons of different fields in there. And then you know, as long as we're not trying to display like, say you have like 1,000 users, as long as we're not trying to display like every user's information all at the same time, we do like one at a time or groups of 10 or something, then it still works pretty quickly.
It's kind of a decision that when I talk to clients on what we're going to do for them as far as users go, is the user going to be something where they go in and make their own changes, or is the administrator doing that? It's an administrator, usually I'll build a custom post type, and the administrator is making changes to add users. But if it's a client, they're going to usually go in and make their own changes. The user table is perfect because they come in. WordPress has the whole profile built. We just let them in and let them do the changes. So there are two different ways that I view.
Thank you.
Help? Yeah. Cool.
By the way, on the Facebook group, search actually works sometimes. So I just.
Feature. Oh, sorry.
And I got all the old things that we were talking about, but I put in arborist and man.
Amazing. What will Facebook do next? It's crazy. Searching. For men. Let's go to
I've just searched my own name sometimes, just like to remember something I wrote.
Yeah. Okay, so that's basically all the main topics. If there's no other questions, what I'd like to try to figure out is if there's anything we'd like to talk about next month. And if not, I'd like to propose that we try a contributor day where we do what I showed today and kind of like sit around little groups and find tickets and things that we can work on. I think that would be so awesome. Do you guys think that would be awesome? Yeah! Okay.
There's a bunch of tables. But we're gonna ask us first?
Yes.
Or
No, I was just gonna test. Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
First you were gonna ask us.
I will.
Changed.
I know. Yeah, I didn't expect anybody to notice that. That was good.
No, I think yours is a good idea.
I said if not.
You will welcome WP Query.